Hey Denchbags, what's going on? It's Standout Remixes here, and welcome to my summer apartment, which will be the home of my reviews for just a couple months. If you're wondering why I've been really slim on uploads lately, it's because I've been really busy moving into this apartment, getting everything situated along with my normal work schedule. There's a lot of really good music coming out in these next couple weeks, so I want to make sure I get some content out to you guys before then. But in the meantime, let's talk about the debut album from Norwegian DJ and producer Kygo. This one is called Cloud9. Kygo was initially made really popular because of his inventing, I guess one could say, or popularization, as I would like to say, of the tropical house genre. A much slower, about 100 BPM, maybe slower in some cases, maybe a bit faster version of house music along with a lot of tropical sounds. Kygo takes a lot of inspiration from artists like Avicii in terms of where he gets his melodies. He's very piano oriented. I've had an interesting history with Kygo because when I heard his very first music, I wasn't really digging what I heard. It took me a while to kind of get used to that really slow tropical house sound. When I first heard his smash hit Firestone, I actually was kind of confused. I was like, isn't this just really slow and not really drop-centric house music? Then I kind of realized, oh, this isn't necessarily supposed to be a main stage banger, it's just supposed to be kind of music coming from him. And it really blew up in his favor. He also really fell in love with the Cut Your Teeth remix that he did back in 2014, so I guess I'd say maybe early 2015, late 2014 is when I started really getting into Kygo's music. And I think since then he's had a lot of really successful singles and a lot of really big ones that have been very impressive to me, so I was really excited to see what he could do with his debut. The track listing here is a bit mysterious because Kygo, in my opinion, leaves out some of his best tracks, even though he only leaves out a couple big singles from this one. For example, the smash Coming Over with Dylan Francis was kept off this one, although that was on the Mixtape is Fire EP, which I did review. But Here For You and its instrumental version ID were left off this album, which I thought was very odd considering the success of Here For You, and just because I like the track so much. And although a majority of his discography is remixes, all of those were kept off this one as well. Although most of the vocalists on this album are fresh names to me, there are some very familiar ones like Labyrinth, Foxes, and of course John Legend. And actually, unsurprisingly, some of these appearances are my least favorite ones on the album. I actually really liked hearing the fresh faces a bit more. I think Coda Line's appearance on Raging is one of the best vocal appearances on this one, as well as its lead melody and undertones make it for one of the best appearances. Will Hurd's very deep appearance on Nothing Left is one of the best appearances as well, in my opinion, perfectly blending with the much slower, maybe R&B kind of sound of the track. I think James Vincent McMorrow's appearance on I'm in Love also made for one of the better appearances on the album. For the most part, I'm not really sure what to think of this album. I'm honestly pretty neutral because there's so many repeated sounds. Of course it is Kygo's style, but it gets very kind of boring to hear these same sounds and styles and synthesizers and piano used over and over and over on a lot of the tracks in this one. A couple of the slower jams like I'm in Love and Nothing Left have me really excited to hear more, and then it's kind of a letdown to hear kind of Kygo's standard sounds with his gorgeous melodies, but I think this album could have been a lot better if it was shortened down. Another pick that I had with it is that the closing track, For What It's Worth, is just a vocal remake of his song Piano Jam, which before this album dropped was one of my favorite Kygo songs. And I feel like that would have been a perfect way to close the album with an instrumental kind of showing this is me, this is Kygo, this is what I do. But instead, he just throws a vocal on it, and it doesn't necessarily bring anything new to the track. Whereas singles like Here For You absolutely enhanced the track by adding the vocal, I feel like this one didn't really do much. Where the intro kind of led Kygo into that same feeling of just the piano sounds and just being a really awesome instrumental, the outro didn't really do that as well. Of course, there's not a ton of single material on here, and the only really singles that I'm absolutely 100% totally into are Firestone and Nothing Left. Wasn't the biggest fan of Stole the Show or Stay. For this album, I'm definitely bigger on the tracks that he decides to experiment a little bit more in, instead of kind of staying in that Avicii melody realm that he doesn't really often leave too much throughout the majority of this album. I think one of the worst appearances is probably the one with John Legend, where I really feel like John Legend's vocals don't go at all with Kygo's sound. I even felt like John Legend's appearance on David Guetta's last album was probably better than this one, and I'm not really a Guetta fan at all. Now, that's not to completely discard all of the appearances on this one, because Kygo keeps it very real, he keeps it very fresh, he uses his own kind of sound, which I heavily respect. But other than a few solid singles on this one, there's not really much for me to remember this album by. I can picture myself listening to a few of these tracks on end for a few months, but other than that, I really don't think this album has a ton of replay value. I'm gonna go ahead and toss this one a solid 6. Let me know if you disagree in the comments. Remember, this is just my opinion and what I think about Kygo. You have every right to love it. A lot of people are digging this album. I'm just not crazy about it. But I do like it, and I look forward to what Kygo has in store for us in the future. Anyway, let me know what I should review next in the comments. I'm gonna have like 10 some odd reviews following this, so it's gonna be a while before I get to them, probably. But anyway, I'm Landon Remixes. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.